Okay, part one of this video series, well, which is now a series, dealt with my my opinion that Michael is a sellout to God, or sellout to humanity for God, as he uploaded that video for Persico, and as he kept talking about how the mainstream media falsely painted this Persico guy as a rat, which everybody just bought into, and because they just eat everything up the mainstream media feeds them, and that just bothered me. And so what I wanted to do is just wait for his next video where he brings God up so I can just break that shit down. And so what's going on here is in that video, Michael talks about judgment and condemnation, and I feel that this video adds to that because it goes on from judgment and condemnation. Now he's talking about vengeance, about how God seeks revenge and sends his wrath, and I'll get to that later here as soon as he brings it up, obviously. So here we go.
And I kind of walked him off the ledge, off the cliff, so to speak. Called me back. The phone call went great. He was happy that he did it that way. But let me ask you a question. Do you ever get so angry that you just want to take revenge on somebody? Somebody hurt you so bad. Family member, friend, business partner, competitor. You just want to go after him and take revenge. You know, it happens a lot. I've been guilty of that in my life, especially way back when I was younger, a little bit more hot-headed. Somebody did me dirty, or somebody did somebody that I loved dirty, got me very, very upset, and I acted upon it. I think I should.
Okay, when it comes to revenge, something I'm very tired of hearing, particularly in movies and TV series with any kind of media I've watched, and I think I may have heard people say it in real life, this notion that getting revenge will not bring so-and-so back, as somebody who's been killed or whatever, murdered. And my theory on that is, I agree that people who are getting revenge are doing it for personal gain or whatever, personal reasons to feel better or whatever. And while I would actually act against somebody to try and take them out if they're a psychopath and they've killed somebody for no good reason. It never happens. I mean, I don't really bother with a lot of people, but if that was to happen and I knew somebody was just after random people, they were a serial killer or something, I would take the person out just to spare the lives of other people so he doesn't kill any more people. I'm not doing it for, well, I would be angry, but even that is wrong too, because my philosophy on psychosis is that, well, people who, commit crimes or whatever, they're psychotic, so naturally they're going to behave in psychotic manners. So to get angry with that is illogical, because how else do you expect them to behave? But the problem is the legal system doesn't do anything about it either. If anything, the legal system perpetuates psychosis and crime. So with all that said,
I shared this with many of you. My sister Gia, who I loved, my baby sister, she died of an overdose of drugs. And I hate drugs because of what I saw her go through. And many times when I would go and find her, I would find her in some saloon, some bar, some club, with guys around her, seedy guys that were shooting her up or giving her drugs. And I'm telling you, I took revenge on these people. I didn't accomplish anything, because I've said this once, I'll say it 1,000 times. You could take a drug addict, put him in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and if they want to find drugs, they'll find it. Put him in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, they'll find it.
Which should be very indicative that drug addiction is psychological and people want these drugs for a reason. The addiction itself is physical, but people can get help for drug abuse, drug abuse and addiction, but they're not accomplishing anything unless they know the reasons for wanting to take the drugs to begin with is looked at and taken care of first. That's what I have to say about that.
And drugs, until they're willing to stop on their own, that's just how it goes. And so I took revenge on people. I did some things that I'm, sorry for. I have to say it. I'm not happy that I did the things that I did, but you act out in life. Didn't do me any good. didn't stop my sister from dying of an overdose, but I acted out in that way. Well, there is a Bible quote, and let me tell you something. You don't have to be Christian. You don't have to be a person of faith. But when things are sensible, you just listen to them. When things make sense, you listen to them. And there's a lot of things in.
I agree, but the thing is, God made us the way we are. So all this stuff in the Bible should be should be unnecessary. I mean, if we were all made perfect, then none of this shit would be necessary. None of us would have to be careful what we say. None of us would have to ever shut up. None of us would ever have to do whatever.
In the Bible that makes sense. I always talk about the book of Proverbs, which I'm going to be quoting quite a bit in this wise guy section, wise guy wisdom section, because there's so much to be learned, so much to be gained from the wisdom of Solomon. And throughout the New Testament.
Where's God's wisdom? A being you believe that exists, as the Bible depicts, as this obedience-craving tyrant who created life to obey it. Him or it, whatever the fuck God is. And, where's the wisdom in that? Putting a tree in their presence and telling them not to eat from it. And then not giving them a fair trial. Not giving them a trial at all. Where's the wisdom in that, Michael? And, just banishing them from the Garden of Eden to result in us having to deal with sin. Where's the wisdom in that, Michael? In
the Old Testament, there are very wise sayings. Whether you're a Christian, a person of faith, an atheist, agnostic, doesn't matter. When something is smart and intelligent and it benefits you, you listen. And there is a Bible verse that I want to repeat to you. It's Romans chapter 12, verses 19. And it says, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written," quote,
we're not supposed to take revenge, but God is allowed to, have wrath on everybody. Doesn't God take revenge when he throws people into hell for not accepting his son? Hurting his delicate feelings, essentially? Rejecting him, offending him, which doesn't affect anybody anybody. I mean, how can it not? Just the fact that he's offended by that. What does that say about God? As for, his wrath, why is God allowed to have wrath and not people? Why is God allowed to murder? And which he does a lot in the Bible, according to what I've heard. I've never read the Bible, but I've heard so much about it, which Christians never really, all they have to say is, you're taking the Bible out of context. So, you speak of it, your whole video here so far is against revenge, but God's allowed to have wrath. Really? And it is mine to revenge. I will repay, says the Lord. Why do you have to repay anything? Why not just scrap the whole fucking obedience nonsense, the narcissism, and just create us the way we should be? And that's the way we should be. Don't fucking create it all. It doesn't make any sense. The way we should be? That's what some Christians would say. What does that mean? Who's to say how we should be? What is that?
Quote, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay," says the Lord. A lot of wisdom in that, people.
Why do you agree with that? The fact that it's his to avenge. Why do you agree with this? How is that either logical or moral? On what ground, Michael? Any Christian, really.
Taking revenge on people doesn't always work out. A lot of times you take revenge physically, you're going to go down for it, you're going to get in trouble. I know that. How many of my former associates went down for murder?
And I do agree with that. I mean, seeking revenge, but for the wrong reason, is not fruitful at all. But to solve a problem, maybe it is. Well, definition of revenge, get back at somebody, that's wrong. But to take action against them for the sake of prevention, I guess, like I just said earlier, yeah, that would be. But when it comes to God, he's the one. He's responsible for all existence. He's responsible for the universe, Adam and Eve, and us. And if he isn't, what the fuck does it have to do with God then? If everything's Adam and Eve's fault, you've just removed God from the fucking equation. Think about that shit, Michael, and Christians in general.
Murder raps. Many of them did a lot of time, died in prison as a result of that. Didn't help them in any way. That was a code we had in that life. Unfortunately, murder was a part of the life. Was it a good part? No, it wasn't.
And again, which you abandoned becoming a doctor to get into for the sake of your father, who was also a no good fucking criminal, career criminal. What the fuck, dude? Really?
Was it a sensible part? No, it wasn't. Did it put a lot of people in trouble? Yes, but we don't have to get that drastic. You got a relative, you got a friend. You want to take revenge on them because they hurt you in a certain way. You know what? It's such a...
The best way to deal with people who have shit on you is to just cut them out of your life and consider that whatever they did to you, the price to have them out of your life. Or if it's that extreme and it is necessary to take action against, go to court for it, over it. File a lawsuit. That's how you fucking deal with it.
Burden to think that way. The consequences.
But again, God didn't give Adam and Eve a second chance. He didn't give them a trial of any sort. As I said before. If anybody clicked on that fucking video and actually listened to what I fucking said.
Could be severe, but it's a burden to carry it around until you have the opportunity to take that revenge. And after it's over, it's not that satisfying. Trust me on that. It's not that satisfying. I have found out that forgiveness...
Well, the reality is, I mean, you got connected to the mafia to clear your father, which almost is revenge. I mean, you should have just left it alone. Accept your father for who he was. Yes, him being framed sucked, but he was a career criminal. Who cares? He's no better. Obviously the cops are wrong, but what credibility do cops have in this day and age? Either have they ever?
Is one of the greatest things in life. Forgiveness and humility. But let's talk about forgiveness now. It's one of the greatest things to take the burden off of...
Forgiveness is useless unless there is a guarantee that whatever happened to cause the problem to begin with doesn't happen again. Or at least the person has some level of understanding of what the fuck is wrong. Otherwise, no, forgiveness is nothing. As for Christianity forgiveness, speaking strictly under the assumption that Christianity is in fact the truth, just to point all of this out, also assuming that Adam and Eve were in fact guilty of disobeying God, as I believe they were tricked by God and tempted by the snake to eat from that tree which God set them up with to disobey him. Maybe God should just do away with that psychotic, horrific, and disturbing string that is Jesus' sacrifice and just forgive people. And what about Jesus' teaching of turn the other cheek? Why doesn't God just turn the other cheek and forget about hell? I mean, that's a form of revenge, is it not?
Your shoulders to have resentment and to want to take revenge on somebody. It's a burden. It's a burden that I know some people have carried around for years and years. It makes them bitter. It makes them angry. It separates you from not only the person you're upset with that you want to take revenge on or that you're mad at, but it separates you from people around them, from sometimes your own family, your friends, your partners.
Maybe you should tell God that as he sits there in the clouds, whatever he does. I mean, he creates life. Never mind, forget that.
What the Lord says here is so true. You know what? Things work out in life. Some people call it karma.
They do? Really? How many people... do things work out for everybody in the fucking world? No? Well then, how the fuck is that a plausible statement to make, Mike? Or an assessment to make? And you often say, well, you're blessed. Well, you know what? I mean, you obviously ignored me the first time I said this, but I mean, if you are blessed and God is being good to you, maybe that's his way of testing or telling you failed in life. I mean, that's all an illusion. That's his way of telling you fucked up and you're going to hell. We are here for God's sake, not our own, according to Christianity. And you're sitting there sharing this in your almost every video, as you do so much of it, which actually makes it preaching. Think about that.
I don't know. I just call it justice. In the end, you can't keep screwing people. Things catch up with you in this life, whether this life or the afterlife. They're going to...
Okay, justice. Now that's something else. Okay. Now, in the divine sense, God gets justice, but does that ever solve sin? Wouldn't the idea be to solve sin? Wouldn't that be the logical thing to do? But how can an omnipotent being not be able to deal with his sin problem? And I've been told by Christians that sin has always been, even before God created the universe. So that means either God is not omnipotent or he's using that. He was wrong to create life amidst knowing this sin or this evil or this corruption already was just the default state of existence. I mean, even though God created all existence, so I don't know. That doesn't make any fucking sense. But in the legal sense, what we deal with is justice doesn't stop crime from happening. It doesn't solve problems. It doesn't, like, people just do their time, as you mentioned in your videos, try to be as comfortable as you can in prison, just to do your time and get the fuck out, only to continue what you were doing to begin with to get you in that fucking prison. And while prison is not about being comfortable, it's about doing your time and just suffering the penalty. I mean, it's not supposed to be dangerous either, but it's not supposed to be comfortable.
To catch up. And what God is saying here, it is mine to avenge. I will repay. And you can interpret this in another way. Again, you want to...
Never mind interpreting it. Why the fuck do you agree with that shit? Why does an omnipotent superior being also need to get revenge, as humans also like to? It's funny how humans and God just have so many fucking negative similarities. That's very peculiar to me.
I say it's karma. In life, you can't go around, hurting people and doing the wrong thing. It catches up with you. I've never seen it not catch up with you, one way, shape, or form. So, don't take revenge on people. Get it out of your head. Let it take care of itself.
Well, why not instead of telling people to just let life ride, why not tell God to let existence ride and stay the fuck out of it? Never mind with this hell bullshit. We're evil? Well, God made us that way.
Some way. Now, I'm not saying you don't protect yourself if somebody's coming after you, obviously. If you're a competitor, if you have a competitor in business that's trying to, outmaneuver you, well, it's a business deal at that point in time, and you use whatever strategy you have to try to overcome.
Would we need business if God made us immortal and invulnerable and just, without needs or anything like that? We wouldn't even need an economy, would we? Now, do you see the problem with that? I mean, I agree. Business is business, but looking at it with the divine lens or the Christian lens, we shouldn't need anything. Life should be a utopia. What the fuck?
That, and to try to best your competitor. That's okay. That's not revenge. That's business. Things happen in business. You don't call that revenge. But I'm telling you right now, let it go. Somebody has hurt you. Let them deal with it. It'll catch up to them. Trust me on that. And again, I say whether it be in this life or the afterlife. So I'm going to say this one more time, and I really hope it sinks in. Romans chapter 12, verse 19. This is the New International Version of the Bible. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. Leave room for karma, if you want to call it that.
Why do you want God to have his wrath? Why do you want any revenge? Or, well, okay, do not take revenge, my dear friends, but, well, what is wrath if it's not revenge? Why does God need, why do you want God to have his wrath? Why do you want the Lord to avenge or repay anything? Why do you want all this?
For it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. Life will repay. When people are screwing you, it's going to catch up to them sooner or later.
Would people be screwing anybody over if we were, if God made us perfectly? Would sin have happened if God didn't create life or just didn't want to be obeyed? Probably not, right?
That should be enough satisfaction or consolation. Maybe that's a better word. And I just have to say this. I'm going to end it with this. A lot of people, knock people of faith. I get a lot of comments.
Yeah, this thing is about 20 minutes in length so far, which I don't like doing, but there's just too much here. Anyway, I'm going to cut this now.